This episode is hosted by Kenneth Bonner, Reggie Smith, and Jacqueline Wells. Well, welcome to the When We Talk podcast. This is Kenneth Bonner,
Reggie Smith,
and Jackie Wells.
Today we are going to kick off our podcast talking about the most recent situation involving Gayle King. Also comments that were made by rapper Snoop Dogg in regards to the most recent passing of Kobe Bryant, his daughter Gigi, as well as the 7 other passengers that passed in the crash a couple of weeks ago. First, let me start off mentioning Gayle King and who she is for those that don't know. Gayle King is an American television personality, author, and podcast journalist for CBS News. She also co-hosts its flagship morning program, CBS This Morning, a position which she has held since they debuted in 2012. She is also an editor-at-large for the Oprah Winfrey magazine. She is also a dear and close friend of Oprah Winfrey. What's been happening and transpiring over the last several days and has caused a lot of backlash, retaliation, a lot of inappropriate comments from numerous sides, as well as death threats on Gayle King's life. During an interview following Kobe Bryant's death, there was an interview conducted with Gayle King and former basketball star Lisa Leslie. During this segment, Gayle King asked a lot of inappropriate questions or asked questions that wasn't deemed necessary at that particular time. And it caused a major backlash nationally, and I'm not sure about globally, but it got a lot of people upset and bothered over her comments. And I'm going to kind of paraphrase some of the statements that she made in regards to Kobe Bryant, calling him a rapist, in regards to the court case that took place in 2003 in which he was acquitted of. And she brought this comment up and it caused a lot of backlash. So that's what we're going to talk about on today. So we'll start off with Kenneth and your thoughts in regards to this situation.
Okay, so my thoughts personally is we saw clips of the show or whatever the case or what the comments were. And me, I'm a fact chaser. I like to see the full clip, in which I haven't watched the full clip of the whole entire show. But I still also feel that the line of questioning was wrong, in the sense of, if you ask the first question and you received an answer, and then she just kept pressing and pressing and pressing and pressing. And you can see that Lisa, I think her name is, the basketball player from the WNBA, was kind of uncomfortable with that, but she held her ground, she held her composure, and she handled it like a lady. And in my opinion, you have a lot of backlash towards Gayle King from the Black community, because a lot of people in the Black community feel like that we're always tearing each other down versus building each other up. Not only is she receiving backlash from the Black community, but she's receiving backlash from a lot of different communities. Of course, the death threats. She now has security from what Oprah was saying on the interview. So there's a lot of things going on. But personally, my personal opinion and feelings about this situation is the man hasn't been buried yet. And his wife is still grieving. His daughters are still grieving. He hasn't been buried yet. There has been no funeral. And yet we're tarnishing this man's legacy, regardless of whether you like Kobe Bryant, you like what he did behind the scenes or not, or whatever the case, your personal opinion about this man is, it doesn't matter. You know, we have lost sensitivity to situations in this society to where everyone feels like, okay, well, I got an opinion about it, so I have a right to say it. I think there's a time and a place for everything. And if you go back to the charges, he was acquitted of the charges because obviously the witness didn't want to testify, whatever the case was. It's really irrelevant. But if he's acquitted of it, then I don't see the purpose in bringing this up at this time. I think it was a poor decision on her part to keep pressing this issues, and she said that maybe she should have pushed back on the producers or whatever the case. But I think that it's too late for that now, and there's going to be even more backlash. I don't agree with the death threats and threatening people's lives. I don't think anybody has the right to do so, but I still feel that she crossed the line with that one.
Yeah, most definitely. I did listen to the clip that they played regarding the interview that she had, and I agree with you as well, Kenneth. I think the timing and her sensitivity to her remarks towards Kobe Bryant was just inappropriate. Now, her being a well-renowned journalist by right, definitely. Was she doing her job as a journalist? Definitely, because of course, anytime that you're interviewing someone as a journalist, it's your job to get the facts and to get perspectives and to get different views. But again, in light of, this recent tragedy, I just feel as though her line of questioning should have only been focused on the legacy of Kobe Bryant. And again, I agree with the both of you. These were charges against him from over 10 years ago. And like you guys said, he was never convicted of this crime. Now, granted, the woman never came out and spoke her truth about what actually happened, only them to know what happened behind closed doors. And again, he's no longer here, or he's no longer with us. So why now? And that's the only thing that really kind of troubled me in listening to the interview. Why now? When we have the opportunity to really recognize this man for his accomplishments and recognize him for all the good things that he did in the world. And I'm not taking a voice away from the lady that brought the sexual assault against him. I think that, I'm not saying that it was true or false, but again, if he wasn't charged of that, then that's not something to me that should be discussed as complicating his legacy, in my opinion. And again, with Lisa Leslie's point of view, she was trying to tell Gayle, in my opinion, we need to put this to bed, basically, because at the end of the day, he, as a friend, I don't see him in that light. That's not how I saw him when we went out. He never, tried to get me to go get other women. He was always very respectful, and, she shined on him in a good light. And then you have Gayle saying, well, of course you wouldn't see him like that because you're his friend. But at the end of the day, I agree with the both of you. I think Lisa handled that conversation very well. I think she also made a great point of, we need to put this to bed and put this to rest. And I think the media, sometimes they play on that and they try to, is it about likes? Is it about, okay, now, Kobe's in the news, with his recent passing. Let's take this topic and see how we can pounce on the situation and how far can we have it go. And then to Snoop Dogg, I was totally appalled by his comments. I mean, I totally disagree. It's a way that you can speak out if you have a different opinion about what somebody is saying, but to come at her and to call her out of her name and to verbally just threaten her over Twitter like that, I thought that was totally unacceptable. And to me, he's just causing more rival in the Black community, because now you have people that's listening to that, and it's only causing more fuel to the fire, when really it should be all about building up his legacy as far as what he has done, to give back to the community, how he was a loving father, how he was a loving husband, how much he did for the WNBA, and, all the accomplishments that he's made through the different nominations that he's gotten and the books that he's written. We shouldn't be focused on the negative side of that. But again, I think it's a sad situation all the way around, because for one, Gayle is getting a lot of backlash, and it could hinder her career too at some point, even though she's a outstanding person, and she has a reputable what I want to say history behind the work that she's done in journalism. But this could cause some hindrances as far as people even wanting to hear anything that she has to say. So overall, I just think it's a sad situation all the way around, in my opinion.
So let me say this before I move forward. I want to say hats off to Lisa Leslie, how she handled the whole uncomfortable situation. She handled it with a great deal of poise, a great deal of grace. So I want to first say hats off to how she dealt with that. Now, as I move forward, I want to also address this and say this: two wrongs do not make a right. So I'm going to tread lightly as I say this. As a journalist, they are supposed to ask the hard questions. They are supposed to ask the inappropriate questions. They are supposed to ask the uncomfortable the questions. That's what they're supposed to do. We don't know if that she was under fire or authority by her boss to ask those questions. Me, I would have taken a different route. I would have never asked those questions. And it doesn't matter when the situation happened. It just was not the appropriate time or the area and the time to make those comments or to ask those questions. Totally against it. So I'm dead set against how she came, what she did, how she continued on with that conversation. Very uncalled for. My next problem is that to piggyback off of what Jackie stated, and this is where it's been happening for the last couple of days, because I have a very important question to ask. When is it okay to call a person or a woman out of their name? Okay, this is the problem that I've been having for the last day or so, the last several hours. I've been taking heat myself, that I've been getting excuses and different rhetorics and changing the narrative, and in some way, shape, or form saying that she got what she deserved. Okay, when is it okay to call a woman the B word? When is it okay to call a woman out of her name? I'm confused at that, and I've been confused all day long because I'm hearing things from very educated people, Christians, people who I think they carry themselves with a great deal of dignity and class, and to turn around and to get into your emotions and say that a woman, one, deserves to be to have threats thrown at her or deserves to be called out of her name. When is that okay? It's not okay. And I've been saying it all day long. No matter how anyone twists the narrative around, it's never okay. And then Snoop Dogg turns around and he says, we're the worst. And he makes makes statements and then turn around and contradicts himself and tears her down as well. Two wrongs don't make a right. We as a people have to learn how to deal with each other in conflict. And I believe that somewhere down the line, someone has to come with some deal of integrity and character and respect, not to escalate the situation. So my question is, when is it okay? Because I just don't get it, that it's okay because you're in your emotions or at the moment you decide that I want to call you out of your name and then make inappropriate, indirect verbal threats. When is it okay?
Yeah, it's never okay, in my opinion. And to me, you have a wife and you have daughters. You have a mother, you have a grandmother. And regardless of like you said, Reggie, your opinion in the matter and your emotional stance, for you to be that disrespectful and caught up in your emotions to where you think that it's okay to call her out of her name, that says a lot about who he is as a person. And I get it. Like, you can listen to Snoop Dogg's lyrics from when he started in the rap game. And it's never been anything of, I don't even know what word to use, but he's never, that's just his line of genre, or his line of how he speaks and how he talks. But at the end of the day, it's never acceptable, in my opinion. I don't care what the type of situation it is, what you may be feeling. And it goes both ways. To me, it's not just about a man calling a woman out of their name. It's not acceptable for anybody to call anybody out of their name, especially in that context. And then for him to go further and threaten this woman's life, that to me, that just says a lot about who he is as a person. And I totally lost respect for him as an individual, because to me, you have to set the example and you have to set the standard. This could have been a perfect opportunity for him to actually stand up and do the right thing versus coming out on social media like that and having people jump on his team Snoop Dogg bandwagon and get involved in that whole situation. It's an ugly look to me. So never, in my opinion, is it acceptable.
I agree. It's not acceptable at all. But you kind of took the words out of my mouth. What I was going to say about it is, when you look at society today, people support music that is derogatory towards women. This is what we listen to. We watch these TV shows, we watch these movies that are degrading women, that are basically dragging them through the mud, just treating them like nothing. We watch movies that young men are disrespected or, treated, abused, bullied, whatever the case. We listen to the altercations between rappers, the beef that they have, and they go back and disrespect each other and degrade each other. There's nothing uplifting about a lot of the music that we listen to. So when you get into the comments of people like Snoop Dogg, do you expect any other type of remarks from him? Because again, like you said, that's his music. And his music, when he talks like that, you're going to get that type of product, from him. You're going to get that type of response, I should say. So that's one thing on one end. On the other end, as it relates to Gayle King, she's going to get backlash because, truth be told, this isn't the first time that she's bashed a African-American man for doing something. If you go back, I don't know how long ago it was, but I was recently listening to, actually, O.J. Simpson was talking about this, about how he was visiting his ex-wife's grave. And she questioned him or had the nerve to speak up and say something crazy about him going to his ex-wife's grave. Like, why is he going there? Because of the whole situation with him supposedly being the murder of her. He's like, this is what my family does. This is what we do. We always go visit on birthdays, Christmas, anniversaries and all that. This is what my family does. Why do I not have a right to go to my ex-wife's grave? And so when you have situations like that, you're not going to get respected as a journalist. They do have a hard job and they have to be cautious. And like you said, Reggie, I agree with you completely. We don't know what type of pressure she was from the producers to say this or say that. But at the same time, we still have choices to make. And on a level of something of this magnitude, to where, again, this man hasn't been buried yet. He lost the wife, Vanessa, lost her husband and her daughter. And now we want to resurrect these feelings at a time to where we're already grieving. I think it's disrespectful. It's completely disrespectful. And it's disrespectful on both ends for everybody just calling her out her name and throwing her death threats. I mean, that's not going to solve anything.
Mm-mm.
And I'll say this. Gayle is wrong as two left shoes. Okay, she's wrong as two left shoes. How she comes at us. Also, how Oprah also comes at us as well. Okay, I'm not going to leave her out because they, two peas in a pod, birds of a feather flock together. Both of them are wrong. I've seen different excerpts of them degrading and downplaying black men. And it's wrong. Okay, it doesn't show the unity that we should have as a people. But my thing is, it's okay to voice your opinion. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to be upset. And we all grieve in our own different ways. Okay. But I would like to see how long that I would last walking up and down the street, calling a woman a dog funky B, and see how long I'll last without someone going to get their father, their brother, their uncle, their cousin to come do something to me. The thing that makes me laugh, and this is from everybody, Christians, non-Christians alike. We all want grace and forgiveness when it's applied to us. We see it, we want it, we desire it, we crave it. If the pastor talks about it in church, we wave our hands, stomp and shout when he talks about forgiveness and grace. But wow, how it changes and how we are quick to forget when it's on someone else. She made a huge mistake. And we are crucifying. They are crucifying this woman for a horrible mistake that she made. Okay. So I've asked this question, and for some reason, no one has ever answered the question. What if it was your mother, your grandmother, your sister, your daughter? Would the narrative change then, or would it stay the same? And I've been asking that question all day long, and everyone dances around the issue and give me different excuses and examples of why they feel she got what she deserved. So does the narrative change? If that was your mother, your grandma up there, and she was the journalist and made those comments, and then someone backlash. I had someone say that, well, it's part of the game. It comes with the territory. Some people have been called worse, but that's still not okay. It's not okay. Right. So does the narrative change or does it stay the same?
To me, the narrative, it doesn't change. Where the only difference is that she's in the spotlight. she's a celebrity. You know what I'm saying? That's the only difference on why they might think that. But to me, it's no different, because if it was my sister, or if it was my aunt, or someone that was close to me, I would be there to see what can I do to help you get through this. Granted, I would have that hard conversation with them to let them know, hey, let's talk through this. Really understand, like you said, Reggie, we don't know exactly what kind of pressures she was under. But again, I think if it was close to home for us, somebody that we're close to, and if you're the right friend or the right person to have that serious conversation, hey, you was out of line for that. You could have approached this a lot differently than how you approached it. I think that we forget, like you said, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. We all have a past. There's some things that we've all done. But at the end of the day, like you said, we're so quick to ask for grace, but we're slow to give it back. So to me, I don't think there's a narrative to it. I think the only difference is because she's in the public view of people, and people, because you're in the public eye, you're held to a certain standard. And when you're not, it's like, oh, okay, let me just rub this off. But I'm with you 100%. It's not okay. To me, it's never okay.
I don't think it's okay, but I also feel like if it was somebody I was related to in that situation, as somebody that has a relationship with that person, I feel kind of like Jackie said, I feel like I'm obligated to correct you and tell you, okay, look, this was out of pocket. You out of line for this one. So we need to figure out a way to fix it, but I don't believe in crucifying everybody, because I agree with Reggie. We tend to forget that we walked in somebody's shoes one day, prior to us being wherever we are, all the self-righteous people, like we're perfect. We have our lives in order. We have everything together. We tend to forget that we walked in somebody else's shoes, that we had to be forgiven one day. And if you keep, it's like there's a scripture in James that said that, I can't quote it exactly, but it talks about how a man looks at himself, his reflection in a glass, and then when he walks away from that glass, he forgets what he looked like. And I feel like in today's society, we forget what we look like. We forget where we came from. When it's on somebody else, we're so quick to be judgmental. We judge trial and jury to people, and we don't have that right. But if somebody exposed mistakes or things that we did, then we're going to jump on the defensive end. But now this woman has to get security. I thought that as a journalist, you should have security regardless. And yes, it does come with the territory. But at the same time, these people are doing their job. I'm not condoning what she did, but she does have a job to do. And who knows what kind of contract she's under. She could have lost her contract. She could have lost her money or whatever. She could have got sued by the network if she wouldn't have asked those questions. But I still feel that regardless of how we look at it, it's wrong and it's very hurtful, and this is why you have the outrage that you have from everybody, because it is very hurtful. I want to just kind of shift a little bit. It's you mentioned something earlier about Oprah and that she has a pattern of doing the same thing as well. But do you think that Oprah would be under the same fire as Gayle King is right now? Has she made that statement?
My thing on Oprah is that Oprah is billionaire status. Okay. She's not on Gayle King status. We're talking about Oprah here. Oprah, whether people refuse to believe it or not, Oprah has some power. Oprah can pull some strings. But if anyone has watched some of Oprah's television shows or conversations she's had with other people, one moment she comes off representing us well and people well, but in the next minute, when it comes to the black man, she doesn't do such a good job. And watching her sometimes, I'm appalled, and I get this eerie feeling listening to her talk, because the representation of us as black men, in which we already have to deal with enough on an everyday. And we're not asking no one to write us the golden ticket or to pat us on the head or to congratulate us at every turn. But dang, sometimes, we hear it on our jobs, we hear it in society, we hear it in the community, but dang, we don't need to hear it all the time on TV every time you open up your mouth. But when Harvey Weinstein and some of them other ones get it, it's almost like she gives them an indirect pass, like it's okay. But when it comes to us, we don't feel that way, which is why we feel the way that we feel about Oprah, why we feel the way that we feel about Gayle and others who do not represent us in a good light. So I would say there is a disparity between the two. They're both in authoritative positions. They both make things happen. But Oprah is on a whole nother level. She can make some things happen, and I believe with her network, she got pulled where she can do some things that put us in a much more positive light.
And I think I did see a story when she was getting ready to do the documentary concerning Russell Simmons. She ended up pulling back from that. She received quite a bit of backlash from her doing that. But I think Russell Simmons wrote her like this long message. And now I don't know if you guys had an opportunity to read his message. It was completely different. A completely different response how Snoop reacted, and so he just didn't understand with the history that they had, why she would target him. And so he wrote her a really long message and, talked about their relationship and what she's done for him and how she's been a part of his family. And then he went on to say how, whatever those women that she was getting ready to bring onto the show, how it really wasn't enough evidence for them to even have a documentary. But ultimately, she ended up pulling back from that. And I think, she did mention that, she want the women to have a voice. It's not, she stand behind the women and what they have to say. But I think it has something to do with, how they were setting the documentary up on why she ended up pulling out of it. But ultimately, I think that she did receive some backlash behind, what she's been doing. But again, I really don't follow Oprah like that to even know exactly, her, what she's doing and what she's not doing when it comes to our black men. But again, if she have this platform, I think it should be used for the greater good, not to shine down light on black men and, the injustices that they may have done.
Can I say this? I want to say this and to go back. I had someone tell me that because of who Snoop is, he doesn't know any better. And that just struck me as just preposterous. This is a grown man, and we have seen Snoop. He has associated himself with prosperous people, intellectual people, so he does know better. That's no excuse. That's no excuse. And my thing is that when we get emotional, that does not give us the okay or the green light to say and do whatever we want to do. It's not okay. And my thing is too, and I know we're getting ready to close, this is Black History Month. We only get 28 days out of a year to represent us, okay? And because of an interview, it has us at arms. It has us bickering and fighting amongst ourselves once again. We have to learn as a people to handle ourselves with much more integrity, to handle ourselves much differently in conflict. No one deserves to be torn down when they make mistakes, no matter how bad the mistake is. No one deserves to be torn down. Everyone deserves grace. Everyone deserves some type of mercy. And there is no excuse to belittle, to demean, to bully, to do anything negative to a person. There's no excuse. Someone even stated, what she said that he was a rapist. That's worse than being called the B word. It doesn't matter. It's still derogatory and negative. It doesn't matter. It's wrong. Wrong is two left shoes. And I'll say again, two wrongs will never make a right.
And can I just say real quick, she did come out and kind of defend, not, I don't want to say defend, but she did speak out on exactly the clip that they played, and so I do give her much respect for that, because she didn't even know that it was being aired, for one. So it caught her off guard, and it hit her in such a way that you can tell when she was giving that, when she came out and did that, her response to everything that was going on. You can hear it in her voice, and you can tell she was like, I was mortified. If I was on your end and I heard that, I too would be upset with me. And so I think, again, she was doing her job. She had a full-fledged interview with Lisa Leslie. And, in her eyes, her line of questioning was in line to them talking about his legacy, and that particular situation happened to come up in her line of questioning. But again, I give kudos to her for even coming out and even acknowledging what happened and trying to give her side of the story and her take on exactly what happened through that interview process.
Okay, so I do want to go back to something that Reggie said. You mentioned that we only get 28 days out of the year. I disagree on that. And the reason I disagree is because I celebrate being a Black man every day of my life. And I don't limit myself to the month that they give us for Black history. I was reflecting today, and I know this is off topic. I was reflecting today with my wife about all of the African American people that invented things in this history, about how we contributed to this country so much in building this country, from the light bulb, from the first African American heart surgeon to the seed planter, just a bunch of different creations and inventions from Black people. And so when I say that, as I don't play the, and I'm not saying this is you, Reggie, I'm just saying in general, I think that we need to study our history more as Black people, and everybody should be proud to be whatever race and nationality you are. But I don't think we should limit ourselves to just the 28 days. But while we do at least get 28 days to celebrate as a month to honor us and our legacy, I completely agree with you 100% that this should be a month to where we're celebrating and building each other up for the next generation to carry on and celebrate things that matter, versus spending time not recognizing the power that we have with our words, and we can pull somebody in because of whatever level of influence we have in life. We have to be careful of using those words and how we influence people, because if we don't, then we'll see the same exact thing of what we have right now. And then we'll be talking about another situation on the same show 2 weeks, a month, or another year from now.
Well, let me say this, and I agree with you 100%, Kenneth. And let me clarify. I was speaking from a national, global level. Right. Because every single day, as hard as it is, I embrace my Blackness. Right. I embrace my heritage. And every opportunity that I get, I'm going beyond my ancestors. I'm going beyond the people that came before me to look at what they did to put us in positions that we are to be better. So every single day I wake up Black, I struggle Black, I come home Black, I go to bed Black, and I'm proud to be Black. And as you stated, Kenneth, that this should be a time for us to grasp hold to each other, to represent one another, to uphold one another, and to love one another. Because as a whole, it's not easy out there. It's not easy just being a human being. Exactly. But it's definitely not easy being a Black man and a Black woman in today's America.
All right. Well, sounds like we got a lot to talk about on the next show.
Definitely. And let me say this before we close. When you know better.
Close number 3.
You do better. When you know better, you do better. And by now, all of us that are of age should know better.
Yes, we are definitely people of character, and we have to carry ourselves that way. We can't go from talking about all the things that Martin Luther King did for this country and to help this country progress for all nations and all creeds and colors of people, to turn around and not even 2 or 3 weeks later, we have this type of mess going down. So definitely great conversation. Well, until next time, keep your head up,
keep God first,
and keep it moving.